And you're very welcome along to Trader Chat. Obviously, you missed us last week. Didn't know what was going on in the world. No Trader Chat between myself, Johnny Ward, and Flynn Goward. But we are back, and Goshen is back. What a performance at the weekend, Flynn.
Yeah, unreal performance from Goshen. He is back. He was very easy to back on the day, though. He SP'd at 100 to 30. All the punters actually wanted to be on Song for Someone. Very, very solid horse for Tom Simmons. Probably wants 2.5 miles, so I wouldn't read too much into his performance from Goshen. We'll get onto that in just a minute in terms of my thoughts on him. We're now top prize Goshen, 9-2 for the Champion Hurdle. So for the big race in March, he obviously won the big race at the weekend over at Wincanton, and he's now 9-2 in March. He's shortened right up. We've already got him in the book, but we want to get him in the book further. We think we can get Goshen beat. I think he's just a very hard horse to get right, and so he can get to the race in top form. So we want to lay Goshen. He's 9-2, top price of us for the Champion Hurdle. He could be back to his best, but I don't know whether that's going to be good enough. I think his form kind of ties in really nicely with Silver Streak. Obviously, you have the Song for Someone link. So Goshen was getting £6 from Song for Someone at the weekend, and I just don't think the track and trip suited Song for Someone. Whereas when
he never really travelled.
Yeah. And when you go back to the international hurdle, obviously stiffer trip and stiffer test on the track at Cheltenham, it really brought out Song for Someone's staying power. And Silver Streak almost got him on the line there. And since that run, Silver Streak's gone to Kempton. They've bunged him out in front. The change in tactics has really paid dividends for Silver Streak when he got in front of Epperton that day and beat her. Silver Streak was only getting £2 in the international hurdle rather than the 6 that Goshen was getting just there. I know obviously Goshen has beat Song for Someone and Silver Streak was beat by Song for Someone, but I think that there's just value in that price of Silver Streak at 12-1 compared to the 9-2 Goshen. We are actually 9-1 Silver Streak, so we are under Silver Streak compared to Goshen. But I think those price differentials are completely the wrong way round. And I'd happily lay Goshen at 9-2 any time. And I think that Silver Streak is probably the value there at 12-1 in the Champion Hurdle market. Epperton was eased after Goshen won at the weekend out to 11-4 on the back of the performance from Goshen. So underlining that we want to lay Goshen at 9-2. And I think Silver Streak would definitely be my bet in the race. And I think he should be much shorter.
How was the weekend in general? Obviously, the Skelton's on absolute fire on Saturday. It was quite enough weekend in Ireland with Saturday called off. But how did you fare?
Yeah, so let's start with Ascot. We'll get onto the Skeltons in just a minute. Starting with the Ascot Chase, the Surname was all the rage for us. We couldn't stop laying Surname. He did
back to myself.
Oh, did you really? He did drift to 5-4 on the off. So punters right at the off obviously weren't getting involved there. But early on and in the morning, it was the only horse that the punters wanted to be with. Dashel Drasher, unsurprisingly, was a good result for us. He's now 16-1 for the Ryanair when we get to March, which is obviously very close now. I would imagine it probably won't be his track, Cheltenham. He seems to love Ascot and kind of going right-handed. So I'm not too sure Cheltenham will suit. And I think the Ryanair looks quite a strong race. Although I did want to get your thoughts, Johnny, on Min. Do you think Min will come over for the Ryanair? Do you think he'll be fine?
Yeah, that is a question mark. I haven't heard anything out of the yard. It didn't look great the last day, but I guess where do you go with him at this stage? And I guess the information coming out of the Mullins camp of late has been the subject of plenty of controversy. So to give you a short answer, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's quite an interesting race to get involved in, I suppose. So if you were looking at that 16-1, there could be a bit of juice there if Min doesn't go. I'd still point people in the way of Imperial Aura around the 6-1 mark. I think he's really good value, as he's none the worse for his unseat the last day. There weren't really any more notable results at Ascot, but the results did go in our favour with the favourites being out the winners' enclosure. So moving on to Haydock. Montmirail's probably wants to talk about being Nassalam in the juvenile hurdle. Nassalam was vying for favouritism at the off, even though he's much bigger in the morning. We actually took more bets on Nassalam, but Montmirail was actually the bigger loser in the book. So in terms of stakes, there were the bigger stakes on Montmirail. Montmirail's not entered for the Triumph when we get to Cheltenham, but Nassalam is. He was pushed out to 16-1 after the race. We've already got Nassalam in the book, which is why we're slightly shorter on him. He's still quite a big loser for us when we get to the Triumph hurdle in the start of March. Lord de Menil was pretty gutsy when winning the Grand National trial over at Haydock.
He was.
We won on the race because we had not a chance at Ungard being the loser. Ungard was really well back towards the off. Lord de Menil is now 25-1 shot for the National from 40. We'll get onto the Grand National just after we spoke about the weekend's races. Obviously, we had the weights last week as well. Then the last race to talk about from Haydock would be Third Wind, who was pretty impressive in the Rendlesham at 9-2. He was also a loser for us there. He isn't entered for the Stayers Hurdle, so there's little changes there. The only change in the Stayers Hurdle was Lisnagar Oscar did shorten into 20 to 1 after quite an encouraging run. He obviously won the race previously. We just found out today that Ronald Pump is out of the race, so he is now out. But Lisnagar Oscar would be the one that shortened there. That is pretty much it for Saturday. Just to touch on Sunday quickly, we obviously had a bumper card from Newbury. The Betfair Hurdle.
How did the Betfair Hurdle go?
Yeah, so the feature yesterday, Kazan was a really big loser at the off for us at 5 to 1.
Desperately weak in the betting actually at the off.
Yeah, he was. It was a weird race. When I kind of looked at the market when they were going off, there weren't really many that were shortening, but there were plenty that were drifting. It seemed to be the 16 posts were now 14 and 12, and the favourites were going the other way. Soaring Glory was the second worst result in the book for us. So even though we got Kazan beat, which we really needed to do, Soaring Glory going and winning the race wasn't the best result for us, although it could have been a lot worse. He shortened into 12 to 1 for the Supreme Novice. But he is now 9 to 1 after we saw some money at 12s after the race. So some people think that 12 was too big, and now he's shortened into 9s.
John Joe speaks very highly of him as well. Like he does, obviously the way he's talking after the race, he just had a bit of a glint in his eye about Cheltenham, you know.
Yeah, if you got any thoughts for the Supreme, Johnny, in terms of these horses going? Obviously, we saw the Devil's Coachman at 16 to 1, who's now 16 to 1 for the Supreme, going and winning in the week as well.
I like Ballyadam, to be honest. I think he'll appreciate the better ground. You'd forget about his run at Christmas, and basically he travelled probably as well as appreciated the last day. Who does have an edge over him basically on those two runs, but he didn't destroy him at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he's far short in the betting. Ballyadam's been really highly regarded the whole way along, and I think Gordon's horse are coming back into form as well after a bit of a blip at Christmas. So he would do for me each way. Obviously looking forward to seeing Meteor as well, who would have run but was scratched because the race was moved a week closer to Cheltenham. So I think it's a bit of depth to it now actually after the weekend.
Yeah, as long as we get appreciated beat, I won't mind, Johnny. As long as we get
always taking him on.
Yeah, we're definitely taking him on. Hopefully Meteor does the job for the English over here. Obviously, when we get much closer to the event in March, we'll have all the usual kind of specials up with Cheltenham, but we're also working on a few different specials. So I'm sure we will talk about that in weeks to come when we've kind of got all the entries. The handicap entries obviously come out today. So once we've got all the entries, we'll get all the Cheltenham specials up. In terms of other races at Newbury, I guess there's probably just a couple more to talk about. So the Game Spirit, well back favourite, obviously the lovable So Royale. Thank God that he went and got the job done. Obviously, it was terrible news for Isaac Swade and Simon Munir.
Yeah,
surge.
Interesting aspect to that. Just So Royale then, and the winner of the novice handicap chase, whose name escapes me. They were very tight SPs. Like So Royale was available at 3s as an SP, and the Nicholas horse, the one subsequently whose name I forget, he was a tight 3.1 on the exchanges. He SP'd a 2 to 1. So the SPs are quite interesting at the moment in that, you know, if you are betting on the show, you're not necessarily getting bad value at all.
No, well, it's obviously it's completely dependent on race. I guess if you're looking at the gambled horses from a few weeks ago, people would argue the opposite and say that it's terrible value because it's, I don't know, 2.4 BSP and they're SPing at 8 to 15 or 4 to 7 or 4 to 6 or something. But I guess it is completely dependent on race. But I think you probably do have a chance on the show now. So if you do want to come and bet on the show, obviously we have a show later lose guarantee with us. So come and bet any horse to win 20 grand on the show, and that's fine. Just want to talk about the Game Spirit quickly. So Royale was a solid loser in the book, but I think Champ is the one to talk about, really, isn't he?
Absolutely really outstanding performance from him, I thought. Like he's jumping, and as Nicky Henderson said, he jumped to the front at the first. But I backed So Royale. I was actually worried Champ was going to outstay him because, you know, So Royale is a bit of a bridle horse. I thought it was to be honest, he's my idea of the Gold Cup winner after that performance. I thought he was absolutely excellent, and he'll go there in perfect shape. His jumping's still a concern, but I think it's an open Gold Cup. Some of the Irish horses have either they're not going to run or they've blotted their copybook. I love that performance. You might say the RSA Chase form, you can pick holes in that and whatever, but I don't. I like a Gold Cup horse that can show so much class over 2 miles as he did yesterday. It was a fantastic performance. I'd be all over him for the Gold Cup.
Oh, really? I'd be happy enough to take him on at 6s. I think that is short enough purely on what he's done. Talking about the RSA form from last year, I don't know whether that's up to a huge amount. But what really interested me was his jumping, and my fear with Cheltenham was jumping at pace. And if you can jump at pace, at 2 miles. Being bunged into every fence is different than having to sit in a Gold Cup and jump them fences that quickly as well. So I just don't know whether he's going to be able to do that at Cheltenham, be able to sit in over 3 miles in a quick pace.
It's an
jump.
incredible jumping test, the Gold Cup. Like it is, that is, the more you watch renewals of the Gold Cup, they're just bang, bang, bang. They come straight at you, and that would be a concern. So he can't really miss a couple and win a Gold Cup.
Yeah, I just think when he's bunged into fences, he'll be fine. The real question will come is when he's got to sit in, and he's not going to go from the front in the Gold Cup, so he'll have to kind of sit and suffer. And I think just jumping at pace while sitting and not being bunged into fences is when he'll struggle. So I'd be pretty happy to take him on at 6-1. So Royale is now 16-1 for the Champion Chase, so just a mover there. And just one more race to talk about from you before we spin through Navan really quickly. The Denman Chase was the other graded race on the card.
Fantastic ride from Bryony Frost.
Yeah, it was a great ride from Bryony, and we certainly heard about it after the race in a post-race interview. She loves it, doesn't she? Punters wanted to be against the front two in the market all day. They backed Kalashnikov off the board. He SP'd 130. Sapage was the other one. So the punters got it right in the fact that they wanted to take the front two on, but they picked the wrong horse. So
yeah.
They had the right idea, but the wrong horses, as Secret Investor obviously went and got the job done there, and he's got good form in the race. I think he came second the year before. He was a good result for us, and there was no real kind of anti-posed impact from the race either. So we'll kind of just wait to see where they come out. But you'd think that Clan Obo will miss Cheltenham and probably go right-handed somewhere.
Bryony fan, yes or no?
Not a massive fan, no. I don't have a huge opinion on the whole kind of bullying thing that's come out recently, but her interviews just tend to grind on me a little bit. So
they grind on me. They grind on me as well, but I just think she's great for the game.
No, she is.
Yeah. So kind of it's nothing to do with the fact that Bryony Frost is a female rider. It's just like an overly enthusiastic jockey afterwards. But she's so good. Like I love watching her. And I think we underestimate how amazing it is that we have Bryony Frost. Obviously Holly Doyle doing what she did in Saudi at the weekends, Rachel Blackmore doing it every week. At the top level, no other sport has women and men competing at the same level. And I thought she was absolutely brilliant in the Denman Chase, I have to say.
Oh yeah. I have completely nothing against her riding. I think she's a fantastic jockey. It's purely the huge amount of enthusiasm. I think when you see it on a Saturday, and if you're
you're only in your early to mid 20s, Flynn, and you're already becoming a cynical old hack. It's the enthusiasm that kills you.
It's terrible. I think because I watch so much racing, and see it over and over again. I think if you just saw it on the Saturday, you think it's fantastic for the game. But when you see it over and over again, it's just a bit okay. Anyway, moving on to that to Ireland before I get myself into trouble. Boyne Hurdle was won by Beacon Edge, who outstayed Fury Road. The news of the race really was Tiger Roll coming back to the track. Obviously, he was eased to 9-1 for the cross country. After that, Easy's Land solidified to 6-4 for the race in March. Still fancy Potter's Corner myself. He's 6-1 with us. We're slightly ducking him, and we're a big price Tiger Roll. We saw a bit of money for Shady Operator for the cross country as well, who's an 8-1 poke. But just wanted to get your thoughts on Tiger Roll, really. What do you think he does next? Does he get to Cheltenham? Does he get to Aintree? And should he go to Cheltenham or Aintree? Should he be retired, Johnny? What's your thoughts?
Well, Elliot was positive enough after the race, and he actually travelled great into the straight, and the ground would have been very testing in Navan. That wouldn't have suited him. But it's kind of inconclusive because, considering his back form in this race, you're expecting a little bit more, but I wouldn't rule him out because I thought there was enough zest in that run up, and he's clearly not going to be fully fit, despite the fact that, you're not supposed to produce horses who aren't fit at the race course. But let's be honest here, Tiger Roll has aspirations that weren't Navan yesterday, and he travelled well to the straight, and that's a long, long way home at Navan. And granted, he cut out, but I wouldn't. I'm slightly on the fence. If he does turn up in the cross country race, I think he could be a big price because let's be honest. I mean, he was odds on in the race last year.
Yeah, and it was all. I think that price is all about him getting there, and whether he actually goes or not. I wouldn't really fancy him in a national. I'd want to take him on in the cross country, but I don't think he'll be out of the picture anyway. I think that I think that the run of the weekend could probably be overrated in terms of how bad he was.
Yeah,
because
you paused it, you slight
really nice, wasn't he?
Exactly. You pause it at the top of the straight, you're delighted, and granted, you're concerned that he kind of cut out, but that could be a fitness thing. And bear in mind, like, he has had a checker a couple of years, so I'm not losing hope in terms of the cross country. The Grand National wouldn't necessarily concern me at the moment. I'd kind of just look more to getting them to Cheltenham.
Yeah, and whilst we're on the topic of the Grand National, we will speak very quickly about it because we had the weights released in the week. Just want to spin through a show of betting. So Cloth Cap 14-1, Borough Saint 16, Kimberlite Candy 16, Secret Reprieve 16, Any Second Now 20, Tiger Roll 22. We are quite a big price Tiger Roll there. Lord de Menil 25, Magic of Light 25, Potter's Corner 25, and then there's Santini 25, Presenting Percy 25, and 28 Bar. So just a quick show of betting there for the Grand National. We did see a bit of interest in a couple of horses after the weights did come out. Those horses were Kimberlite Candy at 20s. We're now 16 Kimberlite Candy. A lot of noise about Kimberlite Candy when the weights were released. And money for Secret Reprieve, obviously the Welsh National winner, was 20-1, now 16. He would probably be my play anti-post. And Cloth Cap was also popular, who's obviously now the 14-1 across the board, pretty much 14-1 favourite for the race.
Excellent stuff. There lots to get through there, and we'll talk more about the national between now and Aintree. Tiger Roll out to bigger than 20s now, which is quite mad. Football. My opposition to Liverpool of late in terms of the market finally came off because I laid them and backed Everton as a sort of a bonus.
In your own team.
I just couldn't get over the fact they're basically level on points in the table. Liverpool are on a shocking run, and Liverpool were mad hot favourites. So this kind of went well. It set me up for a few beers on Saturday night, and it's always kind of okay to say I'm going to be hungover tomorrow, but at least I can reflect on the fact that I won a few quid. How did it go for Star Sports?
It was a fine week to be completely honest with you, Johnny. It was a good week on the football, kind of despite the results, because you think that, I mean, obviously Liverpool got beat, but they're not hugely popular at the moment because they're just not playing very well. City won. Man United was a big one last night. So despite those good results for the punters, we actually did okay this week. In terms of the outright betting, City are now 1 to 200. That's pretty much a non-event, but that's looking good for our anti-post book where we've laid Chelsea and Man United. And they're still the two big losers for us there, so we're pretty happy with where we sit. What I did just want to talk about was some of the specials markets, which we've got back up on site. We spoke about it before the season and during the season. These specials markets that not any other bookmakers have got. And I think that they've got a little bit interesting now as well, which we'll touch on in just a sec. So firstly, we'll talk about the England midfield hopefuls market. So you get 1 point for a goal, 1 point for an assist, and 1 point for a clean sheet. And it's the player with the most points in the market at the end of the season. That is the winner of the market. This market's getting interesting because Jack Grealish leads at the moment on 30. He's 4 to 5, but he's out for 4 weeks now. So real interesting edge on the price there. We've pushed him outside to 4 to 5. He was much shorter. James Maddison, he picked up a slight hip injury, but I think he's going to be okay for their next fixtures. He's on 24, so he's 6 behind Grealish, 6 points behind. He's 5 to 2 second in. Then you've got Harvey Barnes at 11 to 2, started to play fantastically well. He'll be pushing for an England place in the Euros this year. He's on 21, so he's 3 behind Maddison and 9 behind Grealish. And then your 12 bar with Foden there. Not sure how many games Foden will get and how many times he'll start, etc. And he's on 17, so he's quite a way adrift. But if you wanted to get involved in that market, that's obviously on site and on the app, and it's a little bit of a different market to get involved in. And with Grealish being out for about a month, you could take that 5 to 2 Maddison or 11 to 2 Barnes and hope that Leicester do have a really good time of it. And just to quickly touch on the goal contributions for the Premier League, Bruno Fernandes heads that market at 15 to 8 with 27 contributions. Second is Harry Kane at 3 to 1 with 24. Salah has 21 contributions, 100 to 30, and then we are 7 bar there. And then just while I'm on the topic of these little specials, we've also done it for the Champions League. So Champions League is obviously a big one at the moment. Came back last week and we've got games from tomorrow as well. So again, we've done a top midfielder market and we've done a goal contributions market. Starting with the top midfielder, again, 1 point for a goal, 1 point for an assist and 1 point for a clean sheet. Kimmich heads the market there, so for Bayern Munich at 2 to 1. De Bruyne second in at 5 to 2. He's obviously come back to full fitness now. He was playing just this weekend. Phil Foden 6 to 1, Modric 7 to 1, Verratti 8 to 1, 10 to 1 Mason Mount, 10 to 1 Thiago, and then 33 to 1 Bar. And then we've also done a most goal contributions market, so goals and assists, and this is for the knockout stage only. That's for both of these markets. Kylian Mbappe 5 to 2 favourite there. Haaland, who just seems to be scoring goal after goal at the moment, is 3 to 1. Lewandowski's third in at 9 to 2. Ronaldo's 8 to 1. Mo Salah 8 to 1, and then we are 12 to 1 bar there So we've got some Premier League specials markets. So even though it's a pretty non-event in the outright market, you can get involved in some specials and still have some outright bets on the Premier League. And then also we've got some funky markets for the Champions League as well.
Yeah, lots to look forward to in football. Still having a kind of a blockbuster schedule. Just getting on to the tennis, obviously Australian Open, Djokovic and Osaka. Presumably they were popular winners.
Do you know what? It was actually okay for us. Medvedev was the one we really wanted to beat in the tennis. So people wanted to be him. I think that people wanted to be on him when Djokovic was getting injured and he was kind of having the trainer on all the time. And so we saw a lot of kind of in-running play in the outright market for Medvedev. So Djokovic was actually a really small winner for us. He was 6-5 pre-tournament. And on the women's side, Osaka obviously winning there. She was also jolly pre-tournament. We actually wanted her to win because we had Brady for a bit of money. So both results kind of went our way in the Australian Open, and we weren't complaining too much there.
What about the golf, though? I just woke up to an avalanche of messages about the nonsense in the playoff and a perennial kind of the perennial runner-up, born to runner-up, as the Simpsons episode goes. Well, he was runner-up again.
Yeah, we were screaming at the TV here, just trying to push Tony Finau over the line, but he still didn't want to go past. It was a really, really exciting finish. Max Home obviously winning the playoff against Tony Finau, and the prizes were really interesting as well. On the 18th, Tony Finau was favourite, and then when he finished, Max Home stiffed one to about 3.5 feet on 18 at the Genesis. So he went 1 to 250, so 250 on Max Home went, and he licked the putt out. So then it went to a playoff. Tony Finau then went favourite again. I think he was about 8 to 11 in running. On the 10th hole, Tony Finau hit a lovely shot and prepped it up nicely for a chip, and hopefully he'd get up and down or at worst make his par. Max Home's tee shot just went straight on, and he was right up against a tree. And if you can find the shot that he hit next, then do find it, because it was a fantastic shot, and he left himself about 12-15 feet for his birdie. He parred, Tony Finau parred, and then they went to a next playoff hole, and Tony Finau pulled one off the tee into the bunker, and then made bogey, and Max Home was just two-putted and ended up winning the tournament. So a real good watch. Tony Finau couldn't get it done, but it's another top five. I did see a stat yesterday for Tony Finau that since he won the Puerto Rico Open, I think it's back in 2016 maybe, or 2018. I can't remember what year it was, but he's amassed $18 million in prize money. So
I wouldn't feel that bad for himself.
Well, yeah, but in terms of where he's finishing, that just shows how many times he's in the places top fives and top tens, because he's amassing all this money and just not winning tournaments. And the Puerto Rico Open isn't really a big tournament, which is why we were winning him on so much yesterday, because the Genesis is obviously a huge tournament. His day will come. In terms of the result for us, they were both losers in the book, so it didn't really matter for us. We were going to lose either way. We laid Russell Henley heavily, so he was the big bogey going into the week. He was the one that we wanted beat. But really exciting finish. Hopefully Tony can get it done. I thought if he won yesterday, then the floodgates would open, but it wasn't to be, and he goes again in the WGC this week.
Yeah, no concertista in the Quevega Mares Hurdle at Ferryhouse on Wednesday. That's just that card, or rather a punch on that card has just come in. But what are we looking forward to the week ahead?
We've got Champions League from tomorrow. We've got lots of Prem at the weekend. It's pretty tame stuff in terms of racing over this side.
It's all building to Cheltenham now.
Yeah. So we've got the Dovecote and we've got the Adonis. So kind of the last chance for these juveniles to kind of get out this weekend. And then it will kind of all roads kind of lead to Cheltenham. Now I would have thought our chat in the coming weeks will all be about Cheltenham, and then we've got the WGC and the golf. So a real good run of golf tournaments as well. So if you do want to have playing the golf, this is certainly the time of year to do it. We have the WGC, then we've got the Players coming up, and then we're kind of on to the majors then, the Masters being in April.
Great stuff, Flynn.
Lovely stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Flynn Goward back with Trader Chat, and we'll be back next week when we will be just over 2 weeks from Cheltenham. Talk to you then.